Hello, this week's question asks if we remembered or can cite any instances in which colleges and universities actually work together to further their competitive advantage. And to be honest, um, I don't have anything to cite where I can say that unanimously across the board everybody worked together to further their competitive advantage. In each instance, with each new issue, there always seem to be um, differences of opinion on how college football and college sports should move forward. I rarely saw, or I never saw a time where there was um, a unanimous like prevailing feeling across the board on how things should go forward. With that being said, there are two instances that I want to point out that that kind of show how even though it wasn't a unanimous decision or a unanimous feeling moving forward, it kind of eventually satisfied everybody. And one is in the late 50s when the Big Ten and the Pacific Coast Conference were both putting pressure on the NCAA to televise regional games, of course, from the NCAA and from smaller institutions. There was a lot of resistance, but eventually the compromise that arose was that there would be 5 regional television contests a week, and then on the other 8 weeks it would be a national game of the week. And that seemed to satisfy everybody because the big conferences, the two that I mentioned, the Big Ten and the Pac Coast, their itch got satisfied for having regional games, and then many fans who wanted that one big game and that big slate of opponents, they had those in the game of the week on the other 8 weeks, and then the smaller schools were still receiving part of that 18% that was agreed to, so they still had guaranteed revenue. So again, I don't know if it was unanimous, but it had seemed to please everybody. So that was one way that, as a whole, competitive advantage was furthered. Another interesting thing that I wanted to point out is the platoon system that was that evolved or came to be in college football. So the platoon system is basically where you had people who played on one side of the ball instead of the quote unquote all around player who kind of did everything, played on offense and defense and special teams. Um, Colleges began to go to a platoon system, and when it was first introduced, the book did note that it was exciting for fans, but then there was some initial resistance because it became too expensive. Because with a platoon system, you basically have more players on your roster to finance for travel and food and other expenses. But eventually, um, again, a compromise was come to because you still have resistance. It was minor resistance, but you still have resistance. But eventually, a platoon system was created, and as I said just a few seconds ago, that basically made the game more exciting. If you think of even today, part of what makes the NFL so exciting is that you have specialists or people who are special at certain positions on the field, though it's a team game. You have a Richard Sherman who's known as the best or one of the best cornerbacks in the game. You have a Tom Brady who's considered to be one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game, and a Russell Wilson who's considered to be one of the young best quarterbacks in the game. So from a fan perspective and from a getting ratings for television perspective and furthering competitive advantage, going to that platoon system was a way that, as a whole, college football moved forward. Everybody worked together. Like I said, though it still was a compromise, it at the end of the day improved the game, and that was very important because at that time they needed to do everything that they could to compete with the fast evolving National Football League. So those are the two things. Thank you.